A little background on us and myself, I guess. We do have experience in the hospitality industry. We presently work with over 60 hotels throughout the United States, from San Diego to San Francisco to Florida and states or cities and states in between. We also do consulting and strategy for the San Diego Tourism Authority as well. So even though we don't work for CVB or Tourism Authority directly, we do obviously have experience working with them. As far as my background, you know, some people will say maybe I'm a social media guru or an expert, and I hate that. I just, you know, to give you my story, I'm lucky, I'm 36. So when I was in college, this is when the internet started to get a little bit more mainstream. And it's when you actually get like fast, you know, speed internet connection in there. And I started out doing chat rooms, you know, ICQ, fantasy football chat rooms, talking to people in other states and, you know, cities all throughout the world, basically talking about fantasy football. And to me, that's really where social media began. I was probably an early adapter to MySpace. I really do think I was one of the first 1,000 people on there. I just graduated college. You have nothing else to do when you're 22, 23, right out of school. When you come home, not having homework, so what do? You spend a lot of time on the internet, and MySpace was just getting started. It was popular, so I was a user of that. At that time, I worked in radio, and that's kind of my background. I'm a marketer by trade, and I did advertising, sales, and marketing for one of the top radio stations in Southern California. And so I was all over MySpace, though, and I'm like, you know, why don't we have a MySpace page? So I created a MySpace page for the radio station that I was working for, and this is 2005, way ahead of its time. And then I realized the advertisers really didn't like radio commercials, and that's kind of when I saw like the decline in that. And so I basically started creating packages and proposals, and I'd included cross-promotional components on our MySpace page. And clients like Pepsi and Vitamin Water, they love that, and that was in 2005. 2006. So that's kind of when I had that aha moment that, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and it's only going to continue to progress and grow. So, you know, of course, I did get the golden handcuffs. The company I liked, you know, or the company I worked for, they liked what we were doing so much with that, they actually promoted me to a digital manager role for them, and I, you know, was doing that for a few years. But I noticed most of the agencies, particularly in Southern California, when you would talk about digital, they treat it like added value. For example, they kind of discredited it, and to them, digital was a banner ad. That's it. So that's when I decided to leave, and I founded Casual Fridays. It'll be 6 years this coming January in 2009. So to some degree, that actually makes it sound kind of old now for social media. But that's my story. That's kind of, you know, again, so through that time, obviously people, you know, I've spoke before at major conferences for social media marketing. I do have a top-ranked social media marketing podcast. So if you really want to learn more, I can definitely encourage you to go check that out. And I basically bring on a guest each week, and we'll talk about what's working and what's not, more or less. So again, going back to bring it full circle, I don't consider myself an expert. I'm just a member. I'm a user of these platforms. I embrace these platforms. Although now I'm on the other end of the spectrum, though I'm 36, so platforms like Snapchat, not so much. So anyway, that's my story. But let's, is this working here? Oops. Sorry. Here we go. Let's rewind a little bit here. So Facebook kind of, you know, I kind of joked I started off with MySpace. Facebook really kind of came on full steam, and a lot of people don't know this, though. It didn't really surpass MySpace in active daily users until 2009, like the latter part of 2009. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen the statistics. I think some of them were presented yesterday. 1.3 billion users worldwide. Around 2009, though, when businesses were starting to get active on Facebook and creating pages, we put such an emphasis on, you know, the page itself. Let's go get apps. We all need apps. Let's put some like gating on there, you know? Who knows what a like gate is? Like our page, and you can offer an incentive. A lot of agencies, actually, that's how they made their heyday in the early days of Facebook, is because they would scare business owners and marketers like, oh, you don't know how to create apps, even though there's other companies you could easily outdo it. I'm sure you guys are aware of some of them now, like WooBox and TabSite. You pay $19.99 a month and you get them on your page. That's what marketers thought was innovative, you know, ways to use Facebook. Okay, over time then, you know, we have these pages, and then Facebook obviously introduces timeline. Then they put out the cover photo, and us as marketers are always rushing out. Oh, we got to update our cover photo. We got to do all these, you know, changes to our page. And we're doing all this thinking that it matters and that we're going to connect with our users there, and they're going to go to our Facebook page. And the reality is, you're not going to reach your fans here. So who in the room, does everybody in the room like manage a page for their organization, I assume? Raise your hands, pretty much, okay. Do you have a boss who's not on Facebook? If you do, raise your hand. So when they want to like check what you're doing, do they go to your, facebook.com/your page name, and that's what they look at, and that's how they monitor your activity, I assume, right? For the most part. We find that with a lot of our clients, which cracks me up because the reality is this is not how your audience is going to interact with you. This is not how you're going to be perceived to them through social media, especially on Facebook. This is where it's going to happen. That's the person's own news feed. That's the secret sauce. We got to get in that news feed. So, and more importantly, it's happening now here on the mobile devices. Over 74% of Facebook's daily users are accessing the platform from their mobile device. So all you who are page admins, if you weren't a page admin for your local page, do you think you'd be using Facebook from a desktop as much? Probably not. Exclusively mobile. That's where it's gone. So again, that's even tighter real estate right there. If somebody has a big photo, one post is all that's going to show on that person's mobile or on their home screen there. So as they're scrolling through and you're trying to get your content in there, it's tough real estate to crack, as I said. 1,500. Does anybody have any idea what that number represents? No? Okay. The average person, when they sign on to Facebook, they could be served up anywhere from 1,500 to 15,000 stories in their newsfeed based on all these different pages that they like or Facebook groups or who their friends are. So clearly Facebook cannot put all those stories in someone's newsfeed. Who's on Twitter from a personal perspective, not from a business standpoint, but you personally use Twitter? Okay. I'm going to go with you, sir. How many people are you following? 750? Okay. How often do you truly pay attention to your timeline on Twitter? Never.
20 times a day?
Yeah, do you actually read your timeline to what people are tweeting?
Yeah, I'll browse.
You'll browse, okay. But because you're following so many, I'm willing to bet that if you were to like check Twitter and then not check it for 15 minutes, you maybe missed about 300 tweets. You're not going to go back and read all those. There's a reason Facebook has this algorithm, which we'll get to in a second, because if they served you up 1,500 pieces of content, you'd be totally over it, and it'd be a noisy news feed like Twitter. Now, interestingly enough, there is some talks that Twitter next year actually not talks, they've confirmed it, but they are going to be introducing their own algorithm of a sort as well. I think they've realized that they have that problem. Most power users of Twitter now use Twitter lists. They'll create lists of maybe real people they've met. Anyway, I'm getting off topic on that. But the point is, with Facebook, there's a tough competition going on there. Because of that newsfeed algorithm that they have. So you're competing against other Facebook pages that I've liked to get in that newsfeed. You are competing against my interests, if I like a certain band or a sports page or a news organization. You're competing against my friends. Everybody that I've pretty much known now my whole entire life is on Facebook. So there's a lot of people who are sending content on a day-to-day basis that's showing up in my newsfeed. And you're competing against my family. So let me repeat that. You're competing against my family for visibility in my newsfeed. Who do you think is going to win that battle? My family. So it's obviously gotten harder and harder and harder for brands to go ahead and get it. It's tough competition out there right now, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it. We've had a pretty good ride for the last 4 years. We've been able to pretty much reach about 20-30% of our audience. This past year, with some of the recent changes that Facebook's introduced, it's gone down to 6%. And there were rumblings that it was going to be dropped down to 1% is all that you're probably going to reach of your page audience in 2015. And then this happened. Who heard about this last week on Thursday? Anybody? Facebook announced a new change in their algorithm. So this is exactly what they said. People told us that they want to see more stories from friends and pages they care about and less promotional content. Effective January 1, promotional content will get 0 visibility in a newsfeed. They're basically they're telling you that you have to run ads, okay? Now, one of our strategies with the clients we work with, and particularly with the hotels or the CVB, is, we kind of go by like an 80-20 rule. 80% of our content should be fun, educational, helping. Helping is selling, by the way, too. You don't have to directly sell. You can help and be informative to people, and you can still sell what you're trying to, what you're trying to promote. But the promotional content is pretty much toast. And that used to be our 10 or 20. We would put that out there and get, 10, 15% of a reach on our audience on that. But that's going to be done. But We've kind of known that all along. We knew that was coming. We prepared for it. And particularly in this year, we really did more of a deeper dive with social ads. And we've seen great results with it, and that's what we're going to kind of come here to tell you that story. So, yes, you can have promotional content now like this, but you just got to pay to get it in the newsfeed. And that's okay, because if you're still following a good content strategy, and maybe some of your content is, informative information about a local attraction, or fun things coming up on an events calendar in your city or your area, that's great. But if you are trying to do something that's like a direct business objective that is promotional, and maybe you're only doing those like once a week anyway on your promotional calendar, throw some money behind it on Facebook ads. And here's the reality with Facebook ads too is, and this is coming from a guy who worked in traditional media, when we first started running Facebook ads for some of our clients 5 years ago, about 4 years ago, we were getting like a cost per thousand of around 20 cents because no one was really using the platform. Now we're getting a cost per thousand around $4 to $5, but still, I'm sure all you guys know if you've ever bought any traditional media, that's still really good. Radio is about $10 to $15 cost per thousand. Television can be about $20. Newspaper even still gets about $25 to $30 for a cost per thousand. So with Facebook ads particularly, because you can get so laser targeted, which we'll get to in a little bit, still get that $5 cost per thousand, that's fantastic. And so even a small budget is like $30 a month sometimes, or $30 per post, I should say, can really get you a lot of traction. But this is an example of an ad. So these types of posts now, moving forward, if you want those to show up in that newsfeed, you're going to have to pay to get them in there. So this is actually a real campaign we ran, and as I said, I gave you kind of an inside look at how we do our strategy with the 80-20 rule, for example. So we don't put a ton of money behind these because we are posting these once or twice a week, and we do a wide variety of posts too, which we'll get into a little bit later in this deck. But we'll just throw anywhere from like $25 to $50 behind some of these just to see what they do. This particular one generated $1,300 in revenue. We only spent $42. 30 to 1 ROI. That's pretty good. So we've generally seen anywhere from a 5 to 1 ROI to a 30 to 1 ROI. This is obviously one of the better ones. By doing precise targeting through the back end of Facebook ads, and we'll get to that in a second with Power Editor. But they work, and there's key things behind this too. Like I didn't want to really put a bunch of screenshots on this because some of it is common sense, but I do want to go over it. It's not just because we set this up in Facebook ads that this worked. There's a couple of reasons this worked. One, not only did we do laser targeting on this, and we use a form of custom audiences, which I'll explain a little later here, but the other thing is we had a good landing page, so those basic principles still come in. We just can't send someone to the website and expect them to go to where we want them to go and purchase something or buy something or book a room, for example. We had dedicated landing pages created on this particular special, so when people hit that Book Now button, it actually took them to the precise page that they want to go to, or we want them to go to, where they're going to book that room. So I'm sure if any of you guys have dabbled with Facebook ads, and here's the other thing with Facebook. They want to make it really easy for you to place ads. That's how they're making their money. There's no secret there. They have investors now that they got to keep happy. They need to ramp that up. So I'm sure you've all seen this. You go to make an update now, and they want you to hit that boost post button. Has anybody ever done this? A few of you, okay. So like 3 years ago, or 2 years ago actually, when this first came out, like I would just tell people it's a big no-no. You do not want to hit boost post. 2 years ago, I told people it's literally like flushing your money down the toilet. Because Facebook, they've improved this now over the last couple of years, but 2 years ago, you had no targetability on this at all. You just hit it, and it would basically just promote your post in the news feed to all of your fans. And some of your fans are just lousy fans. They're people who've liked your page a long time ago, but yet they maybe have no interest in you for the future. You don't want to target those. And sometimes the best people who you're going to target through social ads aren't even a fan of your page, for example. So the boost post was one way that they obviously wanted you to start getting involved with Facebook ads. And they make it really easy, as I said. Even on your old posts, they're always still telling you, hey, boost this post, boost this post. My advice is do not hit that button. Come on. Sorry, this thing's keep showing an error here. We should be good. When you do hit that button, they do take you to this, obviously. And as I said, they've improved this a little bit, so now you can actually do some targeting on there. You can put your cities, you can put your location, you can put the age that you want to target, you can set your budget, you can add interest too. This is new as well. They used to not have this. So at least that's nice. So there is some improvements to this, but I'd still not recommend to use that. I'm going to show you a little later where you should be doing these. I do encourage you to boost your post. Just don't do it directly on Facebook with the boost post button. I'm gonna teach you how to do that in Power Editor, and it's gonna be much more effective for you guys. The other thing with Facebook ads is they've also simplified the ad buying process. So if you do go to Facebook ads and they'll advertise, place an ad, they pretty much put these objectives now. Like they even tell you, boost your posts, promote your page, send people to your website. And the advertising platform, the back-end one, the Facebook ads management tool, it's gotten a lot better. But I'm still gonna encourage you guys to go to Power Editor simply because Power Editor is where they first try new features. It basically, anything that they are rolling out that's new, it's gonna go new to Power Editor. There's so much better functionality to it. It's more of a robust tool. And it's what a lot of the top agencies do use out there. So I wanna make sure that you guys are familiar with it. And the bottom line is, you're a social media marketer, so it's time you do grow up and not take those shortcuts, not hit the boost post button, not just go and take Facebook's basic recommendation to advertise, but actually use Power Editor. So to get to Power Editor, there's a couple ways, depending on how Facebook recently rolled out Facebook Business Manager. Who here has that set up for their organization? Anybody? Like one or two? So bigger agencies like us, we have to have that now. So this might look a little different, but it's still the same principles. But if you don't have Business Manager, you'd still find this by going to facebook.com/ads/manage/Power Editor, and it'll take you to set it up. Now what Power Editor is it's a Chrome or Firefox browser extension, okay? So it won't work if you're on Windows Explorer, which I really hope none of you are on. It won't work with Safari either. But it's a Chrome plugin, and you can see it's right there as well. When you sign into your Ads Manager, you'll see this little icon down there called Power Editor. And when you click on that, it's going to launch into something that looks a little bit like this. And I know this is a little hard to see. I'll do my best. Now, I put these arrows because I just don't want to forget to talk about them. Because this is an extension, it's not connected really to like your live Facebook page, for example, okay? So the first thing you have to do, and this is where people get lost and they just quit and they give up on it, there's a button right here called Download to Power Editor. And you're gonna basically check your advertising account, which you probably only have one. We have multiple, obviously. But you'll have one, and you're basically downloading all that information from Facebook on the back end or on the ads platform to Power Editor, so you can now use this to manage your ads, place your ads, all that stuff. So you wanna hit that. Now the other thing I uploaded here too says upload changes. So once you create stuff in Power Editor, I've seen so many people do this too. They'll get everything all done, set up, and then they just assume when they hit create ad that ad's gonna be on Facebook. When you're all done with all this, you still have to upload that to Facebook. So that's why you have to do that. So when you first get into Power Editor, you wanna download, and when you leave, you always wanna upload. Those are the two biggest things that you have to do, and I've seen so many people make that mistake. The other thing I wanted to highlight right there, there's so much more to Power Editor. So it's not just to place your ads, for example. Other things that I'm kind of going off on a tangent, if you were to actually hit this one, for example, though, you can technically create what's called dark posts. So if you wanted to, maybe you want to serve an ad, and I'm going to go really, not an ad, even just a post. I'm going to give you a really extreme example for this. But we had a client in the hospitality industry, and they had a package that they want to try to promote to the LGBT community, okay? But they also were a little sensitive. Well, we can't just go ahead and promote that like crazy on our page because that also some people might be offended by that as well. So it's kind of a dicey situation. So what we were able to do is we were able to create what's called a dark post. So that's a status update that's not going on the page. So your boss, for example, will never see this. But it's a post that's still being served up to. Then you can go in Power Editor, create this dark post, and you can serve that up to a targeted demographic. So in this case, we targeted the LGBT community within a certain area. So now that status update is going on the news feeds of that targeted audience, but not on the overall page. And that does not have to be an ad. You can just still serve those up in general. You could target your own fans who hit if they fit that criteria. That's under there. So there's more to Power Editor than just placing and managing ads. But going back here under that Manage Ads tab, if you do hit that, and that'll open up, there's this thing called Audiences, Campaign Dashboard, Photo Library. You can basically store all this stuff for your Facebook page in Power Editor. And the big key one here is the Audiences, and this is actually a blown up version of that. So they have a couple things. They have Save Target Group, Custom Audiences, and Lookalike Audiences. And I want to spend some time talking about these because these are awesome. Who here has placed an ad before on Facebook? Okay. How many of you, I'm assuming you're doing some geographical targeting, you're targeting a certain radius or a range, or maybe your drive markets, or maybe some other popular fly markets, and you go and you say you're, for instance, San Diego, we might target Las Vegas, might target Palm Desert, might target Phoenix and Scottsdale, then we'd maybe go on and hit Oh, we want to change that to a 50-mile radius within each city. And every time you do that, what do you have to do the next time you do the ad? You have to do that same process all over again, right? Well, with Power Editor, you can create what's called a target group. So you just do that one time, and you just might call that dry markets. And now when you go create ads, you just say, here's the audience I want to target. So you don't have to read. It saves you a ton of time, basically, because you can create those audiences then, or those target groups. So you can do that with interests. So maybe you're targeting people who like to travel, who like beaches, who like going to, say you're a CVB and you're around a racetrack. I was talking to somebody the other day. You could target people like NASCAR. You could put all those interests, for example, on there and save that target audience and not have to repeat that process then anytime you want to go ahead and create an ad. You cannot do that in the Facebook Ads Manager. Power Editor is where you can do that. Custom audiences. Who here collects emails? I hope you do. And if you don't, you got to start. So if you're collecting emails from your website, okay, you can take those emails, you can go onto Power Editor, and you can create what's called a custom audience. And Facebook's going to take those emails, and they're going to run them against their database. And anybody who uses that email with a Facebook account, now you have their Facebook profile. So now you can target your email list through Facebook ads, for example. This is a very powerful tool. This is one that we use frequently, and it just, when we do the A/B testing, which I'll get to a little bit later, it's smashing results. That's probably one of the single greatest advantages of the Power Editor, setting that up. You can also do it with some other factors too, even if you get like phone numbers, for example. It's creepy, I'm not gonna lie. The amount of data that Facebook collects on us is kind of scary. But as a marketer, it's awesome because we can leverage that for when we're trying to target and create these audiences and reach them. Lookalike audiences. Okay, is anybody familiar with lookalike audiences? One of you, okay. So, and really quick, if I'm going too fast or somebody has questions, because we do have a smaller room, don't hesitate, just if you want to quick raise your hand. So lookalike audiences is pretty cool. So now you take that email list that you have, okay? And I'm going to use myself as an example. Okay, I subscribe, where are you from?
South Georgia.
South Georgia. So what's your website?
WildPastures.com.
Okay, so I went there and I signed up for your database, your email newsletter, whatever. You have this, okay? And let's just pretend that I live in Atlanta, I guess, okay? Now you have that, and from that you have access to my Facebook profile. You can serve ads to me, but you're like, well, you know what? If Tyler's interested in this, he's 36, he's married, he's got 3 kids, loves football, he loves to go drink beer and wine, loves craft beers. Facebook has this huge profile on me. Well, now what they can do is you can take that email address that I have, and Facebook now can create what's called a lookalike audiences, and you can still do this by geographic too. And now you can find other people within maybe a 5-mile radius, or a 5-hour radius of where you're trying to target, who are just like me. Because if I'm interested in your CVB or your organization, and I'm 36, I'm married, and all that stuff, maybe other guys like me would be interested as well. And those have been really powerful as well as we ran some of those. Because some people, but the reality is this, people don't know you're on Facebook. I mean, they know you're on Facebook, but they're not going to go and just like you. They're not going to follow you. It drives me nuts when I see businesses just have like us on Facebook. Nobody's going to take the time to go search and like you on Facebook. 84% of your fan base comes from your current or previous customers. So in your case, it's people who've already visited your area. People have already been there and are passionate about it or from there. It's not going to be somebody who's never been there and maybe hasn't even planted that seed to go there yet. They're not going to like your page. They might engage with your ad, but they're not going to like you. It's just the reality. So lookalike audiences, custom audiences are like the true secret sauce to Power Editor. Do you have a question or are you stretching?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we all fall in love with this, cost-wise, is it similar to the Boost on Facebook?
You can set your budgets. Yep.
Okay,
Yep. We'll get to all that in a second. We've done, I'll get to that in a little bit. Yep. Okay. No, it's totally, it's free to use. It's not like a paid tool. And that's the thing. I mean, there are some, preferred Facebook advertising software partners out there, and they have some great stuff with retargeting. I didn't want to get into, if you guys have questions, we can go into that. Like, for instance, Facebook is rolling out an Atlas. It's a form of remarketing, and it's basically a whole new ad platform. That's really cool. We can talk about that later. If any of you have individual questions you want information on that, I'll address that after. But most of the tool, this tool is free, and yet the functionality of this is amazing, and it's what a lot of the agencies use. But some of those preferred software developers, this is kind of ruining it for them, because this is some of the stuff that they did, which was for instance, one of the key features of Power Editor is you can duplicate your ads. So if you're going to do A/B testing and create a lot of ads, which I recommend, instead of having to go and recreate all these ads in the basic Facebook Ad Manager, you can just basically duplicate them with one click of a button. So really cool. We'll get to that a little later too. So, but that's a secret sauce. I said definitely want to like go out there, add your email databases. You know, if you have a list of 20, 30,000 people, 100,000 people, not all of them are going to be a perfect match. For example, like some people just don't use the email address that they have on Facebook, for example, that they maybe signed up with your newsletter. I'd say generally we've seen about 30 to 40% though of the list. So if your list is 20,000, for example, you might have like 8 or 9,000 that would be your custom audience size, which is pretty decent enough if you're going to run some ads. So going back in Power Editor, actually you'll kind of notice here there's campaigns, ad sets, and ads, and I'm going to kind of explain what the difference of those three things are. So your campaign is basically your goal. Do you want to get page likes? Kind of like when I showed you that thing that they had earlier. Do you want to drive traffic to a website? That's the one that we've been doing. That's what I would encourage if you're trying to book room nights. Are you trying to just get more engagement? So if you're looking to just boost your posts, for example, you go in Power Editor and your campaign would basically be like page engagement. Or you're trying to get more people to engage with the posts that you're posting on Facebook. There's tons of different campaigns. I have a screenshot of that in a second. But that's what the campaign is. And then under each campaign, you can have ad sets. You don't have to have multiple ad sets, but you might want to. I would encourage you to do this because this is where one of your ad sets might be, because you can see everything that is done in the ad sets is your budget, your schedule, your bidding, your targeting, your placement. So one ad set, you might be targeting your custom audience. In the other ad set, you might be just targeting your drive markets and people who haven't signed up for your email list. So you might sometimes have two different ad sets within a campaign. And then, of course, you have the ads under each ad set. And that's basically your creative. That's your post, your copy, your photo, your video, whatever you're going to put in there. So that's the structure of when you're setting up these ads in Power Editor. And it's the same actually on the back end of Facebook Ads Manager as well. So these are examples of campaigns, as I was telling you earlier, page likes, page post engagement, website conversions. If you have a mobile app, you can encourage installs, video views. If you have a video, I mean, a lot of you guys have great videos put out there. Video advertising is getting huger and huger on Facebook. So you could put your ad out there and make it a video view and just get people to see it and get your commercial out there at a really cheap cost per thousand. Who's actually used this to pay for likes? Who's buying Facebook fans? Anybody? No? Okay, good. So when you're setting up, this kind of got cut off a little bit on here, but basically when you're setting up then your ads, okay? So the creative component of it. So these are three different screenshots that I kind of put together, so I'll just try to have to walk you through. So the one that we did on the ad, for example, that we generated the high ROI, we did website conversions. That's what we're always going for. So we're putting in a link that we're sending people to. It's a landing page with that information where they would book that package. And then, of course, we have conversion pixels on there, and that's how we're able to track the revenue. So when people actually go click on there, and then they book the room, it goes to basically a confirmation page. That page has a conversion pixel, so you got to do that on there. That's how you're able to track the ROI on these social ads. But we didn't just like did a generic ad. We actually did this as a post. So the ad looks like a status update, goes in the news feed and the mobile news feed of who we're targeting. So you'd see we select the page of the hotel we want to do this from, and then you'd put like the website that you're trying to send them to. You'd write your text, and then you can, one of the cool things too that they just launched this about 2 weeks ago, you can now tag other pages in the text of Power Editor. So this is a really cool feature. So if you're doing a cross promotion, maybe you're doing with a promotional partner, maybe they're giving you, maybe it's, for example, if in San Diego, if we did this and SeaWorld was giving us a pack of 4 tickets, we could tag SeaWorld in that update now within Power Editor. So that's cool. But you'd write your text in there, you put your link description, your headline, display link, and then of course selecting an image. Who here is posting links frequently to Facebook right now? Is everybody? And do you guys, when you're doing that, this is a little sidebar tip, but are you guys optimizing your graphics and your images so they display properly? I'm seeing a few people nod your heads. Definitely, I encourage you to do that. And I'll make sure I get information to the guys here, and I'll add this to the deck actually when it goes up for download. But I'll put off the top of my head, I don't know what it is. It's like 1.91 image ratio. It's like, I want to say it's like 1,400 pixels wide by maybe 610 pixels in length. But you want to make sure you have optimized graphics. It's going to make everything look cleaner, crisper, just looks better in the news feed, makes for overall more beneficial experience for your user. So you want to select your image, and then this is the other key too. Facebook has these call to action buttons. And we've A/B tested this. So when we first started running ads, we didn't have them because Facebook didn't have these. We drastically saw a huge difference on conversions on the ads that use these call to action buttons versus the ones that don't. You can't make up the text. You have to use one of those. Fortunately, there is a book now, which is great when you're trying to book a hotel room. But maybe you want to create some kind of ad to get more people to sign up for your email newsletter. Well, you can have a cool graphic talking about it, and you can put a sign up button. It just, they look better, and I'll go back to that screenshot here in a second. That's what it looks like. So they just look better. So definitely would recommend using those call to action buttons. So that's where you're setting up your creative. Then moving over to, you want to go ahead, now you're going to select your audience. And so this is what it just generally looks like. So again, this is very similar to what it's like on the standard Facebook ads management tool. You can go on there, there's the basic stuff such as your languages or interests or behaviors. Precise demographics, like if you clicked on this, that's where you could target, if they're engaged, are they single, if you want to target honeymooners, for example, if you're a destination where you have some great honeymoon activities. I mean, there's just a slew. You got to take about 20, 30 minutes and just go in there, don't place an ad, just go look at all the targeting capabilities in Facebook. It's really powerful stuff. You can target the age, as we said, sex, all that stuff. But you notice on the top, this is where they have your custom audience. So when you upload that list, now you can go on there and you'd plug in your custom audience. Or before, say if you have a really precise demographic that you're targeting and you created that group, you just plug that in there. So now you're only entering that once as opposed to having to go and re-enter all that stuff every single time. So that's why I really encourage you to create your target groups and create a custom audience and create a lookalike audience. You can add those as well. So here's an example. When we plug that in, we add our custom audience, and then it auto-populates that, but then we also then can still, so our custom audience is like the entire email list, right? And for this client, I want to say they have like 10,000 emails. But then we also want to drill down the location afterward. Now, I could have created a target group. I didn't for this example just because I want to show you how this works. So even when you have a custom audience, you can still do some other filtering. And you can still see now of our custom audience, we were able to get a potential reach of now 1,500 people, which is actually, some people might be like, oh, that's not that many people. But that's laser targeted. That's people who are interested in our list. They live within these drive markets now, and they're 21 to 65. And that's 1,500 people that we can target with ads on Facebook. That's really powerful stuff to be able to do that and drill it down. Kind of sidebar here, a big question sometimes people ask is like, what's a target reach? My goal, what I recommend is 5% of what your budget's going to be. So generally, like a lot of times our clients will have like a $300 budget, for example. So then we want to have reaches anywhere between like 3,000 and 6,000 people. If you plug in so many drive markets, for example, or the demographic, and let's say your reach is like 30,000, for example, and if you have only a budget of a couple $100s for the month, you're going to wipe through that right away. It's going to probably be served to people who aren't that really interested in what you're trying to get at, whatever point you're trying to get across. We call it, the more drilled down that you can get, we call that onion targeting, basically. So moving on, you're obviously setting your budget and your schedule. So you can do a lifetime budget, you can do a daily budget, however you want to do it. So to your point, if you only had a $30 budget a month, you could still do that. I think that is the minimum, is their rule is $1 a day. So if you're going to do a month campaign, the absolute minimum has to be at least $30. And you'd be surprised. You could actually get some decent results for as little as $30 a month. What I do recommend, I'd say the sweet spot's between like $500 and $1,000. If you guys can afford that, right now, if it's in your budget, I'd say $500 to $1,000 on paid ads will get you an immense amount of traction on your Facebook page, and you'll just see so much better results than what you did when you're just doing everything organically. The other cool thing they recently added, this I want to say about 3 months ago maybe, is day parting. So this is kind of cool. That was right there, you click on this. So now, as opposed to just running my ads all the time, well, maybe I still want to have them run this month, but maybe I know people are more likely to book travel, for example, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And I don't know, I'm just making that up though. And you could just say, I only want my ad to run on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Or maybe I only want it to run on Tuesdays between office hours, because we find people book it when they're at their desk, usually behind a desktop. So that's a cool new feature that they recently rolled out. So overall, the pros to Power Editor, a couple I just want to quick go through here. tags. I love the tag option too. You can't do this on the regular ad management tool. If you start running a lot of ads, which I encourage, and especially if they're revolving around different campaigns, it can get a little crazy to try to find what you're looking for. Now you can just create tags on that, and you can easily go search and find your old campaigns and edit them or see what you're trying to do, where you can't do that on the regular ad tool. So that's a huge pro to it. The bulk editing. So say, you're probably not doing this if you're creating your ads on the back end of Facebook, but if you do start creating ads, don't create just one ad. Duplicate that, and that's the other advantage. You can duplicate that ad and switch it up. So maybe one of them, it might be targeting your custom audience within drive markets, but then maybe another ad is going to be targeting your custom audience within fly markets, or it might be targeting men or women, and then compare the difference. How are these performing? Where are you getting the most bang for your buck? And it's so much easier to create all these multiple ads within Power Editor than it is in a standard Facebook ad management tool. The day parting is obviously a great perk too to Power Editor that you can't do. And then we talked about the saved audiences and custom audiences and lookalike audiences. Those to me are the key features and benefits of Power Editor that I absolutely love. All right, moving on to Twitter. So I'm gonna be honest, we don't do a ton with Twitter. I kind of like, my official stance on Twitter, especially from the hospitality industry, is it's predominantly more of a listening tool. So like I'm sure you've heard like the great presentation for the Explore British Columbia. I mean, they basically are mining people and joining those conversations. And I'm sure they get much more, well, she proved that, they get much more traction from that than they do just by sending out promotional tweets. That being said, we've had a couple of scenarios where we've leveraged Twitter ads and it can work. And here's one of the examples. Who's into comics? And particularly who's into Comic-Con? Anybody? No? A few of you? For those of you who don't know, Comic-Con is probably one of the largest conferences that takes place in San Diego. It literally just takes over the entire area. The Gaslamp Quarter, you can't go anywhere without seeing everybody in costume and dressed up, and it's insane. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but literally, like they take the entire, it's one of those conferences where it comes in, that it'll get hotels like even in Mission Valley, which is about 15 miles away from the Gaslamp, they sell out just because of the overflow of the hotel rooms and the Gaslamp are not available. Well, one of our clients, the Marriott Gaslamp, which is like at ground zero for Comic-Con, they called us up and on that day, and they go, I don't know how it happened, but we have a room. Last minute cancellation. What's the best way to get this out there? We said Twitter ad. And we ran a Twitter ad. We targeted the Comic-Con hashtag. And they had 2 different hashtags. And we also, so we put this in our tweet. Here's our tweet. We crafted this tweet up. We included the Comic-Con hashtag and that one. But then when we ran the Twitter ad, we targeted the Comic-Con hashtag, the SDCC, which is San Diego Comic-Con hashtag. We also targeted the Comic-Con account. So now our tweet was showing up in the news feed, or not the news, in the Twitter timeline for people who are following that hashtag or including that hashtag, or people who are following Comic-Con's official Twitter handle. And so a perfect example is like, who's been tweeting at this conference? A few of you? I don't know about you guys, when I go to conferences, like I'll create a list, or I'll just go to the hashtag, I'll go in like search.twitter.com, I'll find that hashtag. That's really all I engage with, or that's who I look at. And so imagine all those people are probably doing the same thing with the Comic-Con hashtag, and now they see that, holy buckets, there's a room still available tonight, and some of them retweeted it, a few of them, but this ad ran for 15 minutes and we sold out the room. $795 room night, high demand. So they got $795. They spent $25 on that ad. So again, great opportunity to get the ROI. These are harder than Facebook ads, obviously, just going back to what I was saying before. Just standard promoted tweets, I don't put a ton of stock in them just because I don't think a lot of users pay attention to their timeline. That's just my opinion. I think people are more using Twitter when they're paying attention to lists that they've created, especially the power users. But it's, they made a lot of enhancements to the Twitter ads platform. So again, they have a dashboard, and they have, they've kind of basically copied Facebook. They have the various types of campaigns, and this is all new in the last couple months. Do you want to do followers, website clicks, or conversions, tweet engagements, app installs, leads on Twitter, and then you can do custom stuff. And then again, the creative is pretty, self-explanatory as well. It's just like it. You'd write your tweet. Twitter cards is a newer thing within the last year, and it's really cool because now, if you are on Twitter, basically it makes that tweet a lot bigger because you can put a cool photo or a graphic, and then you also now have the ability to put those call to action buttons in there as well. So you can do a book now. When we ran this ad, they didn't have this available to us, but this is all new in the last, like I said, within the last year. So again, with Twitter, now you can make this cool, nice looking visual with all that key information on there. And then, of course, your targeting. They've improved this a lot too. You know, when we did it, we pretty much only had the keyword and the and the followers. So we were able to add, obviously, the hashtag of the various conferences that we were targeting. But they've added tons of additional targeting criteria, along with the genders, location-based, all that stuff. Obviously not as thorough as Facebook, but pretty good. And then, of course, your budget is very similar to Facebook. You can set up a daily budget, a monthly budget, a max if you don't want to hit it. You can hit this budget cap right there. I have found that it's gotten kind of expensive. I don't know why, but Twitter ads do seem to be a little bit more pricey. But again, if it's the right campaign, if you got a large enough audience that you can target, it can be effective and efficient. So I know I want to leave some time for questions, and I think we have like 5-10 minutes left, about 5. Just some takeaways, just get started. Just go carve out like 15 minutes every day and play around with Power Editor. Within like 2 weeks, you'll feel so much more comfortable with it. And even if you don't want to place ads, go use Power Editor, like I said before, and play around with creating some dark posts and try the targeting there. At least that way you'll get more familiar with using the tool. Definitely create multiple ads and A/B tests. Compare how your ads are performing on there. Really, I could have given a whole another presentation on Facebook Insights and like the ad reporting on Power Editor. It's superb. They even drill it down. If you do put those conversion pixels, you can basically figure out which segments were converting the best. So, for example, you'll know if like women 18 to 34 are converting more than men. It's really kind of cool. And then if you want to learn more about this, a good buddy of mine, he's honestly one of the best people out there to learn about Facebook ads. He speaks all the time at conferences on Facebook advertising, johnloomer.com, and he has a program too. I want to say it's only like $350 maybe, and you get access to all these online tutorials on Power Editor, and you're in his club, and he'll update you. And this guy literally is a genius when it comes to Power Editor. There's so much more to this tool. I just barely scratched the surface here today. Final few things, I'll take questions. One, if you're interested in the podcast, just go to casualfridays.com/subscribe. We also, in addition to being an agency, we also build software, and the software we build is to solve our own problems. One of the problems that was presented to us 3 or 4 years ago was competitive reporting on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And there are some tools out there, don't get me wrong, Simply Measured is a great tool. They're expensive though. So, and it's really just plugged into the basic API. We have really affordable plans. We created Scoreboard Social, and there's a promo code to get 20% off for life. And you can do basically competitive analytics and insights on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And it gets emailed to you once a week. So it's a boss-ready report. And then lastly, if you want to email me, there's my email.